Hello, it's my pleasure to welcome you here in Chile, Stuart Allardyce. Can you introduce yourself to the people that will be listening to this presentation?
Hola, my name is Stuart Allardyce. I'm the director of a charity in the United Kingdom called the Lucy Faithfull Foundation. And our charity has been running for around 30 years. And we focus on the prevention of child sexual abuse and exploitation. And most of the work that we do, in particular, engages with perpetrators and potential perpetrators of sexual harm against children.
Can you let us know a little bit about the range of people that you support? And I mean, do you work just with young people? Do you work with adults? Which is the population that you cover?
So my background in particular is working with young people with sexually abusive practices. I worked as a social worker with that group for many, many years. But the Lucy Faithfull Foundation works with a much wider range of individuals. We work with children and young people who display sexually abusive practices, but we also work with adults who have committed sexual offences against children. And we also work with individuals who are worried about their sexual thoughts, feelings or behaviours towards children, but who haven't offended yet and are looking for help and support to make sure that they don't offend against children.
Oh, wonderful. Can you let us know a little bit the strategies that you use to do that type of work? Do you do individual work, group work? A little bit of the type of the strategies that you use to intervene.
So in the United Kingdom we have something called the Stop It Now helpline. And the Stop It Now helpline is for anyone who's worried about anything about child sexual abuse. And it's open every day of the week. And last year we had 8,000 phone calls. Sorry, 8,000 callers, 16,000 phone calls, but 8,000 callers. And half of those callers were adults who were worried about their thoughts, feelings or behaviours towards children. So in situations where people phone us up, the first thing that we tell them is that if they give us any information that tells us about criminality, or suggest that they're a risk to themselves or to other people, then we may have to pass that information on if we know who they are. But we can't trace them from the call, and if they don't tell us who they are, they can choose any name they want to use for the call. So it's completely anonymous and confidential. And the kind of calls that we get range from adults who are worried about their online behaviour. They have shifted into looking at sexual images of children, perhaps after looking at lots of legal pornography and becoming desensitized to that. Or adults who are worried about thoughts and feelings that they have towards children in their life. Or indeed adults who have already committed a contact offence and want to make sure that they do everything they can so it never happens again. And the kind of things that we do is always, first of all, starting with safety, thinking how do we make this situation safe, and then looking at the factors that maybe underpin the behaviour and whether we can help the adult take more responsibility for those factors.
That's fantastic. So in consideration of the theme of this Congress, in looking the fantastic job that you do and to eradicate child sexual abuse as well as to protect the children, I can see that you do prevention as well as intervention. Is there anything that you can recommend us that you think, considering our reality as a Latin American country?
This is the second time I've come to the Congress in Valparaiso. I think it's a wonderful, beautiful conference, and it is tackling one of the most urgent social problems that we have. We know that perhaps up to 1 in 5 children will experience sexual abuse or exploitation by the age of 16. We know this happens in most countries, and that would include Chile. So we know that we have an urgent social problem about how we better protect children from harm. I think what you see at a Congress like this is people from all over the country coming together, learning from each other, learning from people outside Chile, learning about what they can do to not just better protect children from harm, but prevent abuse before it happens. But I think one of the most important things about this Congress is that you see social workers, psychologists, teachers, professionals coming together who are already working in a really difficult area, a challenging area, and they come away from this Congress energized and excited, and they realize that they're not doing this work on their own. They're part of a movement that will ultimately eradicate child sexual abuse if we do everything we can to stop it.
That's wonderful, Stuart. Thank you for that. So you just gave us flavor of what are your thoughts about this conference. So if there is anything that you have, enjoyed the most, I mean, being here and looking this conference in general, or if there is anything that you might do differently, or maybe do you think that it was really good or different?
There are so many things that are wonderful about this Congress, where to start. But I spoke at an event which happened just before the Congress, but connected to it, which was about young people with sexually abusive practices. And we had almost 100 different psychologists and social workers who came together. And I think there were some really important messages at that event. Messages such as that actually a huge amount of child sexual abuse is caused by children and young people themselves. Maybe a third to a half of child sexual abuse is caused by young people. And actually, it can be every bit as harmful as the abuse that's perpetrated by adults. But these are children. They are children, and we need to work with them as children. And what that means, if we give them the right opportunities in a safe way to learn, to have nurture, to have a family, to be with their peers, then what we do is give young people the opportunity to move on, leave that behavior behind, and not then act out in those kind of ways as an adult. And that's the best thing we can do to safeguard children.
Totally agree. You also do some work around siblings abuse. Can you let us know a little bit more about that type of work that you have researched? I think so.
I think this is a really challenging area. So we know a large proportion of sexual abuse is perpetrated by children and young people themselves. But actually, within that group, actually that includes those who sexually abuse within their family. And that can be cousins, nephews, nieces, but most commonly it's siblings. It can be siblings where there's a big age difference, 3, 4, 5 years, but sometimes the age difference can be very little, but there are very big power dynamics between the participants, particularly when it's boys and girls. And it's a particularly challenging area because I think those who experience harm in that way often don't identify themselves as people who have experienced child sexual abuse. They don't see themselves as survivors of sexual abuse. They think that what's happened is, that's just what my brother did to me. I think the important thing in working with families affected by this, and I, along with colleagues, have been doing research in this area for many years, is that the job for us as social workers and therapists is not just working with individuals, but helping whole families with healing and moving on from harm. So not just the child who's been harmed or been abused and the child who did the abuse, but also the mum and the dad and the other siblings, and helping everyone make sense of this and creating a safe environment, both sexually but also emotionally and physically, for everyone to move on.
Thank you, Stuart. That was really, really wonderful to hear. And we give you thank you as well to travel so long from Scotland to here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate all your support for our Congress.
Great. Thank you.